Will Harley-Davidson find a smoother road ahead, and will their suppliers confidently take that journey with them? Stay tuned and we'll answer that question and dig into the numbers just a bit next on this edition of the Savvy Report. Hi everyone, I'm Ernie Martin, founder and managing director of Receivable Savvy, and welcome to this week's edition of the Savvy Report. Whether you enjoy riding a two-wheeler on the open road, having the sun in your face and the wind in your hair, under your helmet of course, or whether you are scared to death of riding on a motorcycle, you're at least familiar with the Harley-Davidson name. Harley-Davidson is one of America's most iconic brands and sort of a symbol for American toughness, freedom, and the love of the road. Founded in 1903 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin by childhood friends William Harley and Arthur Davidson, Harley-Davidson was only one of two American motorcycle companies that survived the Great Depression. Its bikes also played major roles in both world wars and in the cinema, and now stands as a metaphor for baby boomers interested in one of this country's ultimate status symbols. But that positioning is partly to blame for Harley-Davidson's financial challenges. You see, the company has been experiencing a slight downturn in sales over the last 12 to 18 months. According to its own website, Harley-Davidson worldwide retail motorcycle sales were down 6.7% in 2017 compared to 2016, while U.S. retail sales decreased by 8.5%. And any retreat in sales and units moved should catch the attention of members of the company's supply chain. I mentioned in a previous episode of the Savvy Report regarding Toys R Us that many of its suppliers were left holding the bag after the company declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Are suppliers looking at the same fate here with Harley-Davidson? Well, no, I don't believe so, but their financial issues warrant a closer look. Now, most companies at one time or another, especially if they've been around long enough, have experienced a sales downturn and still remain relatively healthy, assuming their debt to capital revenue is manageable. A downturn may only be a byproduct of a temporary shift in the market, the cyclical nature of certain industries, or simply an indicator that operating costs are just a little bit too high. But what appears to be plaguing Harley-Davidson is, more or less, two things. First, most people gravitating towards the motorcycle lifestyle belong to the baby boomer and Generation X segments of our population. Harley-Davidson has struggled to appeal to the 71 million millennials compared to how it has successfully captured segments of the 82 million baby boomers and the 41 million Generation Xers. Will millennials, as they age, raise kids, send them off to school, begin to find interest in motorcycles? Well, that's difficult to say, but as the company learns how to handle this challenge, they've also done things like announce the closing of one of its plants in Kansas City. With the restructuring of some of their production and the elimination and transferring of some positions, the company expects to lose about 350 jobs. Second, there are competing motorcycle brands, such as Indian Motorcycle, which, by the way, is the other American motorcycle company that survived the Great Depression. There's also Honda Motorsports, as well as Ducati, the Italian motorcycle company currently owned by Volkswagen. All three companies have been experiencing healthy growth recently, some even reaching into the double digits. So that's a lot for Harley-Davidson to deal with, but they do have some initiatives designed to help them turn the tide and increase sales. For instance, the company has made efforts to reach out to previously underserved segments, such as young adults, women, African Americans, and Hispanics. Many of these initiatives are already paying dividends, so much so that ridership and purchases among these groups have increased. Harley-Davidson dealers are also helping to drive sales by offering the Harley-Davidson Riding Academy, where they train new riders as a way to help increase demand for its heavyweight bikes. Harley-Davidson is also considering the purchase of Ducati in an effort to diversify its offering and strengthen its relevance to younger buyers. But the price tag for Ducati ain't cheap. It's currently hovering at around $1.7 billion. Now, Harley-Davidson, who had sales of $5.6 billion in 2017, sold about 241,000 bikes last year, while Ducati sold about 56,000 in the same time frame. With the added debt, will Harley-Davidson be able to not only swallow that debt, but also glean enough from Ducati sales to help them master that debt? Well, that's what suppliers should be aware of. While the purchase of Ducati might add cachet, will it help grow revenue? That's difficult to say, but it will depend on how and whether Harley-Davidson integrates Ducati, assuming they do end up buying the company, and whether millennials will have an increased interest in bikes from Harley-Davidson that may skew younger. As it relates to suppliers, Harley-Davidson has established a relatively tight supply chain designed to reduce cost and increase efficiency. Through its innovative supply chain management practices, the company has established real-time integration with many of its top suppliers. Orders are tracked in real time, along with stringent pricing and performance metrics designed to keep supplier pricing competitive and of the highest quality. According to CSImarket.com, a financial media company that provides integrated financial information, Harley-Davidson suppliers increased sales by 16.6% year over year in the first quarter of 2018. During the same time frame, suppliers' net income increased by 3.1%. So based on these numbers, suppliers are doing well with Harley-Davidson and should be well positioned to continue contributing to their growth and their success. But what bears watching is its potential purchase of Ducati and the potential for additional debt on the balance sheet. The more debt Harley-Davidson takes on, the more mindful suppliers should be of the company's ability to innovate and quickly respond to changing market forces. As I stated earlier, Harley-Davidson doesn't seem to be in the beginning of its death throes. Far from it. But it's wise for suppliers to consider the 5 points identified in our recent blog titled Toys R Us Bankruptcy Tragedy and the 5 Lessons Suppliers Must Learn to Protect Their Revenue. You'll find the link to that write-up in the description below. Well, that's it for this week's edition of the Savvy Report. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.